Welcome back to Arise Prime Time, where we offer perspectives on the news and talking points of the day. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Now, you probably know that President Tinubu has appointed a former Shell executive, Bayo Ojulari, to head Nigeria's oil firm NNPC Limited. It's part of sweeping reforms aimed at cleaning up the company, which has been dogged by allegations of corruption and inefficiency. So, Mele Kyari is out and Bayo Ojulari is in. But he's inheriting enormous challenges, and even though he's got decades of experience in the oil sector, most experts say he's got his work cut out for him, trying to free himself from political interference and restoring confidence in Nigeria's murky oil sector. For one thing, the restive Niger Delta, from where much of the oil comes, has been pointedly agitating for better representation at NNPCL. And all this coming amidst the continuing shock of the state of emergency that's been declared in Rivers State, which is the heart of the oil-producing region. So how is all this going down in the Niger Delta? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the chairman of the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, or PANDEF, Ambassador Godknows Igali. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me here.
Do you feel encouraged by the appointment of a new head of the NNPCL and the process of constituting a new board? Does that seem to have met the aspirations of the people of the Niger Delta for better representation at the NNPC?
Well, for representation, no. But in terms of infusing new life into NNPC and putting a team that will bring about a new perspective, that is okay. But for representation, we don't think it is fair to us. Because
what would you have wanted to
it's
see?
not fair to us because the oil, the gas, the natural resources in the oil and gas sector are produced in the Niger Delta. And there is no part of this country that has the amount of human resource in the oil and gas industry as the Niger Delta. Mind you, because this is a resource in a part of the country, University of Benin, University of Port Harcourt, University of Calabar, they started the relevant disciplines quite a long time ago. And even our people that went to other universities abroad before then focused on oil and gas. So the professionals, the core professionals in the sector are from the area. Oh, good. We have somebody, one of the most qualified people, Otin Avuru, as an executive director. And if you rate him, of course, he could have also been the group managing director. The point we are making is that the days when you say, oh, we don't have people, are not there. There are qualified people, and they can't always want us to play from outside. There are, besides upstream, besides actual production, there are a number of issues, community issues, environmental issues, that it is always somebody who is there that can smell the coffee and that can be able to bring all those other factors to play. So the persistent keeping out of people of the Niger Delta from the core management of the NNPC does not augur well. It's not fair, it's not just, it's not a good way to promote proper inclusion of our people.
So why do you think that is happening persistently?
Well, it's a consistent policy of exclusion. Sometimes some of us think that it's deliberate to keep our people to be in a state of being left out. You don't do this to people from other parts of the country, and for the period that we are not maybe having the political power at the top, this continues to occur. And we will keep talking because it is not fair. If we don't have the people, it's different. We have the critical mass of the professionals in the sector. So why do you always leave them with auxiliary positions or a minister of state position that is more or less like a placeholder? Even the position of minister, substantive minister, does not exist. So you have a minister of state for gas, a minister of state for oil, who don't have any proper proper substantive function. It's just maybe general policy issues, because you are neither the minister nor are you the proper chief executive of the industry.
So when you had President Goodluck Jonathan as the president of Nigeria, was there much of a difference?
Well, in the President Jonathan's
I mean, he's
time,
from the Niger
yes,
Delta.
he's from the Niger Delta. We had a substantive Minister of Petroleum, and there were GMDs from other parts of the country. Where you have a substantive minister, it creates a balance, because the minister has an executive capacity to be able to influence things and be able to bring all these other factors I've mentioned to play. But where you don't have a substantive minister, you don't have a substantive member in the executive management of the sector, you are excluded.
And do you think that plays into other issues that affect the Niger Delta, like the cleanup of the many polluted areas in the region? I mean, I wonder to what extent that is still coming up. For example, you had a meeting with the president recently. Is that still something that comes up?
The issue of the environment of the Niger Delta, the environmental cleanup and remediation, will continue to resonate and live with us for a long time. There are two major reports, the UNEP report on Ogoni, the International Commission report by the Bayelsa State Government, which was led by the Archbishop of York. Those two reports show that the environment of Niger Delta is the most polluted piece of land anywhere in the world. And for a sector that has not been well regulated environmentally, there must be a consistent and an intentional policy by the government to clean up. Now the Ogoni cleanup is going on, or is supposed to be going up somehow, but Ogoni is a microcosm of the entire Niger Delta. Everywhere where oil has been exploited in the past about 68 years in the Niger Delta is terribly polluted. We had as much as about maybe 10 million barrels of oil that has been spilled into the environment. So the cleanup, and that's what we told the president when we saw him on the 11th of March. The cleanup must be done at the same time, maybe on a pilot scale, in all the states, all the communities where there has been pollution. We don't have to wait until you finish with Ogoni, because this would take, according to studies, about 50, 60 years. Now there's a push by the government to drill, baby, drill and drill. Good, we'll drill, and we want the national economy to move forward. But if you are going to drill, there must be more stiff environmental standards. We insist on that. And the cleanup must go hand in hand with trying to drill more. Of course, with that goes the requirement, the demand for infrastructural development. There must be impact in the communities that are suffering from the impact of not properly regulated standards in the oil industry.
Well, I mean, that's clearly a very justifiable argument that you make there, and a very strong one. But of course, a corollary of the cleanup is the development of the region, as you said. I mean,
Yes.
are you seeing the Niger Delta Development Corporation, or NNDC, moving at a fast enough pace to really get development going in the region, or are you disappointed? Because that's essentially run by Niger Deltarians.
Yes, well, it is, but again, the way it is formatted, a lot of decisions are made in Abuja, because the original intention and the original the format is not what operates at present. Yes, at present there's a managing director, a substantive board and management of NDDC. This was not so in the past about 8 to maybe 10 years. We had ad hoc managements. So there was no board to take decisions. Well, now there's a new board, and so far we are satisfied with the performance of the new board, and we expect them, if they maintain that consistency, there will be a long-term impact. So we had a plethora, so many abandoned projects all over the place. And NDDC became synonymous with abandoned projects. But now there's a new orientation, a new focus. And if this can be sustained over time, they will be able to have more impact of that intervention agency. But then a lot of its funds are being held. A lot of money that is supposed to accrue to NDDC is still being held, and those funds should be released so that the impact which is expected to be created by this body can be created in the areas.
And of course, all that, the NNDC monies that you're talking about being released, the appointment of a new head of NNPCL, the process of constituting a new board, the attempt to clean up the polluted areas of the Niger Delta. I mean, a multiplex of issues. And all of it happening amidst the continuing state of emergency that's been imposed on Rivers State. Is there a sense of turbulence? I mean, does it feel like it's almost on a war footing?
No, first and foremost, let me correct an impression. The Niger Delta, for the past perhaps about 15 years, has been one of the most stable and peaceful areas in the country. And this has been achieved through the effort of community leaders, traditional rulers, and not because of military might. And that was why the government had to come up with an amnesty program to assuage the youth that their nerves had been frayed. But what has happened in Rivers State is unfortunate. It's unfortunate because this was a storm in a teacup between two political rivals. And when we from PANDEF saw that they were not arriving at peace, we constituted a very high-level peace committee led by Obang Victor Atta, the former governor of Akwa Ibom State, and with 7 other people who were 2 former governors and other leaders of the Senate. Initially, the two sides, nobody wanted to talk to each other. But I say unfortunate because we are at the threshold of peace. Threshold of peace because at the last count when Obang Atta and his team visited Port Harcourt, the two sides started to talk. So, okay, we're ready to meet. We're ready to meet. And I've not said this in any public forum, and I'll say it here, that when we got to that point where the two sides said we are ready to meet in a neutral ground, I traveled to Calabar, and I met Governor Otu, Prince Otu, the governor of Cross River. I said, hey, Governor, we've had this protracted problem. Now both sides are ready for peace. We want you to host. And Governor Otu said, oh, that is very good. I'm ready to host. Because we wanted a win-win situation, a situation where it's not the winner takes it all, where the two sides can meet face to face. And mind you, Port Harcourt is not as cosmopolitan as Lagos, not as big. Port Harcourt, we all know each other. And these two sides, people from both sides are close friends, somewhere in kindergarten, nursery, primary, secondary school, or university together. So there was a need for us to come back together, have that brotherhood and camaraderie. Well, so he was ready to host. But when the Supreme Court judgment came out, it was like putting, as they say, salt to injury. So people said, no, we have won, so we are not ready to talk. And but then we now went forward and saw the president. Said, Mr. President, we are making peace, so please encourage all the two sides, particularly your minister, to also cooperate with the committee. And he said, go ahead and make peace. You know, the president showed a lot of respect for the people who went. People like Chief King Alfred Spiff, whom, and I must give this credit to him, when he came into the room, he said, I'll breach protocol. He left his desk, came down and greeted him very respectfully, and the other people that were there. So we're all excited because we saw that peace was in sight, and there was a rekindling of hope. But less than 24 hours later, it was as if Armageddon has occurred, because there was a pounding of tirade and all kinds of attack.
And of course, he declared the state of emergency.
1 week later. So and that's why I said it's unfortunate.
Right. I wonder what questions linger in your mind, and how resolute you are in opposing or supporting that state of emergency.
No, I don't support it. I don't support it because I think that, well, first and foremost, presidents have the constitutional power to declare state of emergency if the information available to them dictates that. And that's what the Constitution says. And so nobody can say the president did not have the power. He has that power. But I also have worked my public life. I have not worked for any other person apart from the federal government. We worked closely with presidents, and these issues of declaration of state of emergency is one of the most difficult for any president to take. But they do it depending on a basket of information available to them. And sometimes those information have to be checked and cross-checked, because there was the mention that they were blowing up of pipelines, and the next day the company comes to say, oh, no pipeline was blown up. It was a fire that occurred, and we've quenched the fire. When a pipe is blown, it takes 6 months on the minimum to repair it. For that magnitude of pipe, it's like twice the size of this table. But by the next morning, they were functioning. So which means that there was some problem with information. Or when you tell the president that, look, the governor brought down a house and it's not assembling and it's not constructing it. The new administrator went there a week later and said, this house is 70% completed. But these were information that were, so you can't fault the president perhaps totally, because it depends on information available to him. That is an area that I have, and we have an issue.
Yeah, but that information must have been available to him.
But
the
information comes from different sources. Maybe there are about 20, 30 different intelligence groups. Now, the other thing that gives me a problem is the issue of the suspension of the governor. Listen, in 2013, Boko Haram took 3 states of the country, 3 states, Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe, and pinned their flag in those states. And without sounding immodest, I was quite close to President Jonathan, and I was part of his inner circle. And the military came and said, look, we have to flush out these people from those areas. And we all Nigerians agreed and backed them. And when the Attorney General was called, the Attorney General Mohammed Adoke, very sound, one of the best lawyers this country, said, Mr. President, you don't have that power. You can declare state of emergency, but the power to suspend democratic institutions, to strip them off and to sell them apart, you don't have it. The military said, no, we need people senior to us who are in retirement who can understand what we need to do. The Attorney General said, you cannot do it, Mr. President.
And they didn't.
And by the end of the day, Mr. President declared state of emergency and did not tell the governors to go and sit down. And these were classical cases, what they call classicals, cases where you can declare state of emergency, where there's foreign invasion. So my problem,
yeah, we're almost out of time.
Yeah, well, my problem is that creates a problem, because if you have stripped the democratic institutions at a time when we're trying to build democracy, that creates a problem.
And of course, you're saying the appointment of a sole administrator, that has complicated matters. I wonder if he's been consulting groups like PANDEF as he gets about running the state.
First and foremost, let me say this, and I will not take too much time. That sole administrator is one of the very best this country has produced. One of the finest naval officers. He later became a diplomat like some of us. And a great serviceman. We all started our careers, and he's a great friend of mine. We've not spoken, but I've written him a letter. And my letter, I pointed out to him, maybe you'll get it in the next 1 day or so, I sent it by DHL, that some of the things you are doing, you are wrong. Because the sole administrator, the administrator comes, suspends everybody, strips all the institutions of the state, traditional rulers council that exist in perpetuity, because these are natural rulers, say, no, I dissolve you. I dissolve all boards, I dissolve university councils. By the NUC regulations, you can only dissolve a university council if they are corrupt or they are incompetent.
But are you struck by the fact that the president is allowing that to happen?
Well, I don't know.
In a democracy?
I don't know if people who are oversighting him are pointing it out to the president. But then today he said, oh, no, all procurement processes must stop. Stop every procurement process. We have to start anew. So, you see, an administrator, a sole administrator, is a placeholder. He's supposed to keep things as it is and make sure things function properly. But when you come and look, it takes time to build the institutions of governance.
So let me ask you this, because we're almost out of time. That suspension of all those offices, how much has that
dissolves them?
The dissolving of those offices, how much has that created greater distance between the sole administrator and the people of Rivers State? I mean, how much has it ruptured things there?
Let me also say, for what happens in Rivers State that affects the entire Niger Delta. PANDEF as a body, we are the mother body of the entire Niger Delta. And sometimes some of those people who are on some sides of this divide will say, well, why is Ambassador Igali talking? It's not from River State. No, but we are from Pandef. And all of them, including Governor Wike himself, Minister Wike is a son of Pandef. And when he became a minister, and people say, well, chase you out of this town, you are from the south. So we from Pandef that came out to defend him, I said, every Nigerian has a right to hold a position that he wants to hold, and if the president finds it fit and proper.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that
in 30 seconds, please.
In 30 seconds, maybe even in 5 seconds, is the fact that when these things are done, you create a siege mentality. It's as if, oh, we have been conquered as a people. And we will not keep quiet. We'll talk against it because it is wrong. It takes time to build institutions that have been built. One man, he's a very capable man. Maybe I can call him a night spectacular. And you can't come and strip institutions that have been built. But we will work with him. We'll work with him. We encourage the people of River State to be peaceful. And we, Pandef, will work with him to make sure that we arrive at the destination.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Ambassador Godknows Igali is the chairman of the Pan-Niger Delta Development Forum, or PANDEF. Thank you very much.
I should thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow. From me and the entire team here in Abuja and Benin, bye-bye, and thank you for watching.